I have a Thielen. And sadly, I haven't gotten my jersey in, so mine is a Thielen.
I've got my Steelers hat on once again after another ugly but utterly successful game.
Yeah, we're having a tough year.
Is
it popped up yet?
Is Justin Jefferson going to leave?
They could depend on the quarterback.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Bravest sucks.
Fuck off.
Okay, great. I'll be ready.
Shut up.
I'll be ready.
Did you say Insta or Facebook?
Facebook.
For our guest hosts too, if you guys want to share, that would be great.
Just go to the wrong everything page. Oh, it hasn't popped up yet. But it will any minute now.
Is up.
I see it. Look it. Share now. I just did it.
Great.
All right, if you guys are ready, I'm gonna start the commercial.
Okay. Support for Wrong About Everything comes from Minnesota's credit unions. Credit unions are locally based, member-owned financial cooperatives that return earnings to members through higher savings rates, lower loan rates, and reduced fees. Visit mncun.org for more information.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Wrong About Everything podcast. I am GOP strategist and Twin City Sugar, Brian McDaniel.
I am former Republican Senate Majority Leader Amy Koch.
I am small business attorney Davis Sensman.
I am Washington County Commissioner Carla Bigham.
And we are
Wrong About Everything.
Well, we want to definitely thank Commissioner Bigham for being in the building when we actually needed a last-minute sub for Javier, who's under the weather today. So we want to wish Mike Oxbrown a speedy recovery.
And I will say my attorneys will appreciate this. Nothing that I say reflects the opinions of my fellow colleagues on the Washington County Board of Commissioners. There we go.
Well, Carla, you've had all the jobs, but tell the people who you are and what you do.
So I started out as a Cottage Grove City Council member, and then I went to the Minnesota House of Representatives and represented Cottage Grove, St. Paul Park, Newport, South St. Paul, Denmark, and Great Cloud Island, and then went to the Washington County Board representing that area, and then went to the State Senate in a special election, and then went back to the Washington County Board. So I was a member of the DFL caucus, and so just did 9 years between the two chambers up at the Capitol, and have just really enjoyed public service.
Yeah. And what do you enjoy Minnesota Credit Union Network Studio?
I do love credit unions. I do love credit unions.
Do you want a quarterback?
Do you want to shut the hell up?
Don't forget to share on Facebook the link. Right.
She's learning.
We're wrong about everything.
Amy and I spend entirely too much time together.
It's true. It's true.
I am practically just infuriated by the sight of you.
I know. I love it so much.
But Amy's infuriated by the sight of my trophy
that
I won by winning the Fantasy Football League. More to come about that.
More to come about that. But here we are. We are in.
Is it?
That's a good question.
I see.
I don't know whose signature that is. We should ask Karen Housley on that.
Right.
Probably me.
I'll text her.
We are in the Minnesota Credit Union Network studios, deep within the bowels of MBC Studios here in northeast Minneapolis. We are being capably serviced by Profession Confessions' own Gabe Noah, who's in the booth. So thank you, Gabe. And we want to know. We want to know. Are we still up on billboards as people are driving around? Carla, our Blue Ox billboard is kind of a little bit in your area.
I haven't seen it.
Yep.
I haven't seen it. Sorry.
All right. Well, But we still want to thank our good friends at Blue Ox Media and Dustin Greggy at Honey Hive Digital for putting together our website, which is wrongabout.everything-podcast.com. And I actually saw Dustin and his lovely wife at
The new baby?
did not see the new baby, but they were at Jim Nash's birthday party this weekend. So I got
Representative Nash.
Representative Nash, the Jim Nash Cash Bash. We had Johnny Cash had a Johnny Cash bash. Johnny Cash band. Jim actually got up and sang with them,
Nice.
quite capably.
Nice.
I would say, but it was a good time, even though it was torrential raining. But we had a good time. We want to talk to our good friends about our good friends at Bradshaw and Bryant. Their entire team of attorneys and staff is dedicated to providing the legal advice you need combined with the service and personal attention you deserve. If you have questions about how they can assist you with a personal injury, wrongful death, or criminal defense matter, do not hesitate to contact them. Consultations are free. Please contact them at 800-770-7008 or at minnesotapersonalinjury.com.
But no snitches.
No snitches.
No, thank you. If you want to cooperate, seek other counsel.
Mike Bryan only is interested in you if you're ornery.
Yeah. If you're gonna live by the code.
And if you want to obfuscate. But anyway, so a little bit of apologies. I thought Javier was going to be quarterbacking today, so if it sounds like I'm stumbling over some stuff, I am a last-minute replacement.
It's just the way it always is.
Just kind
Yeah,
of.
it's just, don't worry, no one will notice.
There's an excuse this time.
Brian, is it just like the Bears?
Yeah. They're very
Here's
bad.
the thing. Most people know I'm a Chicago guy. I'm a big Bears fan, big Cubs fan. You can't really hurt me with the Bears. The Bears have been so crappy for so long. I mean, incompetently crappy. I tell people I'm a Bears fan and a Republican, so I'm familiar with ineffective leadership.
And disappointment.
I mean, yes. Did I think they were going to be better this year? I did. Are they better this year? They are not.
I had high hopes for you. You know that.
Well, they didn't lose 70 to whatever.
What difference does it make? They could have. You know, I
mean, it's only the season's young.
You know,
Brian, are you in the Fire Matt Canada camp?
Well,
that's
Pittsburgh.
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's
sorry.
Davis's team.
Are you in that?
That's my
Sorry.
terrible
Davis,
offensive-
you in that case?
Yes.
Sorry.
He's terrible.
They can't fire. The Bears can't fire enough people. There's not enough. They have to hire people to fire them because it's that bad. Their defensive coordinator is like going to jail or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
They got
That's true.
they got robbed. Someone broke into Hallis Hall and stole
That's
$100,000 worth of workout equipment. I mean, it's Keystone Cops bullshit. They're that bad. And what I say is, you can't hurt me with the Bears.
Because you have the Cubs.
You can hurt me with the Cubs.
Yeah.
And they're about to get me too, because the Cubs were in a very, very prime position for the playoffs, and they're Chicago
How
Bears
about those
ended up.
twins?
Yeah, they're going to get swept.
All right.
You'll be there with me, and your team is 0-3 as well.
That's
true.
Yeah.
I mean, losers are going to lose.
This
You
is-
guys are supposed to be winners.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, I don't
My
even want
team's
to do
2-1.
this.
Become a sports
Yeah.
podcast.
I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay.
Sports ball. So the only person who's having a worse week than the Bears and Cubs, Donald J. Trump.
Oh,
So
dang it!
David-
I was hoping it was Hunter Biden.
the law offices
Trump tried to be like Hunter Biden, though. He did try to buy a gun this week while he was under indictment.
Good Lord.
He said on camera, I'm going to buy that.
Can you not buy a gun?
No, you
Under
cannot.
indictment? I don't know the
So-
rules of indictment.
On the podcast, we've
Not a
talked a
lawyer.
lot about
a question on the app.
the various indictments that Donald Trump is serving under at the moment. But this was very different,
Yes.
because this was the summary judgment motion, which even I'm a lawyer enough to know what that means. That means the court looked at it and said, we don't need to go any further. The papers you have served are suffice to tell us you did something wrong. But I want to be respectful of my legal betters, so I'm going to kind of.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't lawyer in the courtroom, but yeah, it was a big
business
deal.
thing, though, and
yeah, it is
Davis
a business
means
thing. So the issue was that sometimes Donald Trump and his Tweedledee and Tweedledum children, which, by the way, Ivanka got herself dismissed from this. She was like, I'm leaving these
Good
people
lawyer.
behind.
She knows.
Yeah.
Good lawyer.
So the sons and him were running the company, and when it behooved them...
Even Barron?
Oh, no, not poor Baron.
Just
He
Eric
stays
and,
out of it.
Eric
Yeah,
and
just
Don
those
Jr.?
two.
Yeah, okay.
When it behooved them to have for their properties and their assets to be worth more, they said, yeah, it's worth a lot. And when it behooved them for them to be worth nothing, like when it came time to pay taxes and things like that, they said, no, it's not worth much at all. And his lawyers kept trying to say, well, valuation is an art, it's not a science, which, I mean, is kind of true. Like,
Right.
you
Yeah.
tell
It is.
people that when you're like buying them out of a company, but it's not an art that can change. You can't just change it based on like, hey, it would be good if this was worth more, make it worth more. And then they signed the documents, and Trump tried to say, well, we had disclaimers in there. And the judge was like, that doesn't matter.
So, can you explain the court case? So it was a
Yeah.
summary judgment that decided what? So
Yeah,
who was
so the Attorney General.
That's a Rule 56 motion.
New York Attorney General?
Yeah,
Yep.
she brought this as a civil case and said, like, basically, you've been kind of ripping off the people of New York because
Right.
you've been committing fraud. This
Yep.
was so egregious that it fell into fraud.
Okay.
And so the judge looked at, I mean, this rarely ever happens. Everyone
Yeah.
always brings these motions.
Yeah. This is something that in almost every, back when I was a real lawyer, almost every, complaint that you file, you'll put in, it's boilerplate language pretty much for Rule 56 summary judgment. And you're not going to get it because, in every case, there's always some bit of fact finding that the court would require you to do in order to prove your case or disprove a case. If you get summary judgment, it's rare, but it's meaningful. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't appeal this, and
No,
maybe
they can appeal it.
And maybe another judge will see it differently. I'm not pretending to say that I know.
So
all
they
of the
they made a
facts of this.
request.
So both sides made a request, which they always
Okay.
do. They said, listen, Judge, we've presented all our, it's right before you go to trial. And
Yep,
they
yep,
said, we
yep.
presented all our evidence. It's pretty clear we won, right? And normally the judge is like, no, neither of you very clearly won. We're
Gotta
going to
go
have
to
a
court.
trial.
Trial.
But
Yeah,
in
right.
this case, the judge was like, you know what, Donald Trump? I've looked at all of this evidence.
And you're guilty.
And
Yeah.
there's no,
You've done
even
dirty.
taking it, even putting you, believing everything you said, putting you in the best light possible, you cannot win. You cannot win. And so we're going to find, and I think his attorneys were surprised. And they said, also, I'm going to sanction these two attorneys because they kept making frivolous, like not based in fact arguments. And so I'm going to sanction them too. So those two have to pay money.
So his attorney has to pay money. Not only did he lose the case in a spell swoop,
Yeah, he
but
has to-
they also owe money.
And now they will have the trial to decide what the damages are. Because then his
Okay.
attorneys today were like, well, what does this mean? You took away his business licenses. How is this going to work? What can we do? What can we? And the judge was like, I don't know. Basically, like, no one's ever lost this bad. Hold on. Let me figure it out.
Let me think for a second.
So who are the plaintiffs in this? These were investors in
or
different
the
projects.
state of New York, right?
It was the state of New York. And yeah, I think there were some. Well, it was definitely the state of New York.
Oh, I see what you're saying, Brian. Did the
Yeah,
state of New York
we're there.
plus investors that got?
Yeah,
they were on the other side of things.
Were
I'm
they
not
on
sure.
behalf
Well,
of
anyway,
investors?
it's not that important. I was just curious if we knew. So yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it
We'll
was.
see how that goes.
It's a big deal, and I feel like the news is not making, media is not making.
This is Carla's husband thanking her for the legal disclaimer.
That is my lawyer. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's boo.
And
Boo.
he's just acting as a
Thank you.
citizen of Washington County.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
what Hattie's wearing right now.
Now, the Bears had a bad week. Cubs had a bad week.
Donald Trump
Donald
Jr.
Trump had a bad, yeah. Those boys had a bad week.
Vikings had a bad
They had
week.
very bad week.
Oh, and this is how bad the Vikings week was. We saw this
this
right
is
before
not great.
right before we went air. The Vikings are saying that there was excessive crowd noise, which is what prevented them from properly
But it was a
communicating
home
at the end of the game.
game.
It was here. It was in Minnesota. It was your crowd.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I was the quarterback on our Powder Puff high school team.
I don't think we're allowed to call it that anymore.
Well,
But
here,
that,
regardless,
yes.
I'm 5 feet tall for those watching at home. I knew to spike the
Yeah,
ball.
yeah,
I
you knew.
knew to spike the ball. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah,
Don't blame the crowd. Don't blame your fans.
No. Well, that's really low. Like,
They paid a lot of money to be there.
like don't worry, we won't come next time.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like
We'll be quiet.
Super quiet from our basements. But anyway,
All right.
as I said, the Bears had a bad week, the Cubs had a bad week, the Vikings had a bad week, the Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump, had a bad. You know who else had a bad week?
Who?
Senator Bob Menendez.
Yep.
Whoops.
not according to him. He
Not
said
according to
it's
him.
going fine.
Not according to him. So we've talked a lot in the last number of weeks about ethics and when about the Supreme Court and with Justice Thomas and whatnot. And now Bob Menendez is like, hey, hold my beer. And
Oh, my goodness.
he is doing all kinds of stuff. He is there are cries from all corners of the Republican and Democrat Party about getting him to resign because
Dude was on the take.
he was on the take. That Senate seat has been firmly in Democrat hands for a very long time.
Yep.
But if he runs again, it is extremely possible that he would lose that seat, which, with the Senate having such a narrow margin, every seat definitely matters.
Although
So-
they did return him, he did get, this is his second indictment. He got off
He
the
did- he
first
does get
time.
off.
And the people of New Jersey were like, go get him, Bob.
He has gold bars, and not since Tony Lazzaro have we had to discuss a person just having gold ingots sitting around the house.
That's a bad sign.
yeah.
That's a bad sign.
That's a bad sign.
And he
Walking
had
around with
like
some gold
money,
bars.
like cash stuffed in the pockets of like a congressional jacket. It was like
classy.
with the seal, and he was like, whoa, that's just where I keep my cash.
This is one of my favorites too. This you see, he allegedly searched on the interwebs, how much is
Google.
1 kilo of gold worth after a trip to Egypt? He came
Open
back.
a private browser, Bob.
He searched how much is 1 kilo of gold worth. First of all, don't trade in gold.
No.
Don't do that.
No.
Who except like pirates and
Who but
and
criminals?
and Putin, right? Despots. They deal in gold.
Yeah,
Bob,
no.
Senator Menendez.
Yeah.
He should definitely go. Bob.
He has to go.
yes,
He has to
yes.
go, and there's
Time
been
to
a lot
go.
of pressure on him, mounting day after day. They're piling up on him, and he should just do the right thing, stop being the distraction, and go.
And this might not be the only people, but of the Minnesota delegation, I know both Senator Klobuchar and Representative Phillips have encouraged Senator Menendez. Didn't his kids kill him?
No,
that was,
different Menendez.
Is that a different Menendez? How many are there?
Yeah, there's
No,
Evidently
a couple.
two. At least two.
least two.
Well, I guess one. Oh, okay. Now I'm the asshole. I'm the asshole.
Too soon.
Too soon?
Too soon.
Too soon. Sorry. But yeah, so that is something where he might be using those gold bars to melt down to give him some golden balls in order to stay in the race.
Also,
I mean, as a Republican,
and his
I'm
wife.
cool if he stays in the race.
Right,
yeah, no, I
Please,
think that's
Bob. You know what? Let the people of New Mexico decide.
No,
New
New
Jersey.
Jersey.
New Jersey. Oh, they won't care.
Yeah,
Wait a
well,
minute, I forget.
they don't really, but
New Jersey.
Yeah,
nothing a good old fashioned primary won't take care of.
the pictures are really like, you try to be like, I guess you deserve due process, but like the picture of him and his wife where she's got those sunglasses on and she looks like Cruella DeVille. It's
Yeah.
like, you guys shouldn't walk like this together.
Yeah, Polly Walnuts was contacted for comment, and he's like, "Hey, I'll do it.
Hey,
Give me a call.
he's got a bag of gold.
A bag of gold,
Got a bag of gold.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
marron."
It's got a big dollar sign on it.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
The Monopoly guy.
You know,
That's just where I
two
keep my
bags,
cash
leave
in
it
that
Egypt.
windbreaker.
Talking shutdown. And it's hard to kind of follow what's happening here. I mean, Speaker McCarthy, and we knew this was going to happen. He is in a unenviable position of having to either placate, the far right of his party, of his caucus, or cut a deal with Democrats, which would effectively end his speakership. So everyone's waiting with bated breath. I think that the Senate is kind of coming to some
they
agreements.
passed something yesterday, but they said it's like dead on arrival.
It's dead on arrival. But is it a jumping off point? I don't know. I mean, I think that it's one of those things where, the American people aren't following this close enough to give him a win if he holds firm on spending. But if he doesn't hold firm, he's not going to have the votes to retain his speakership.
Yes.
Without Democrats voting for him, which he'd have to.
So here's what people don't understand, right? So people might, during the Mark Dayton shutdown of 2011,
The Amy Koch shutdown.
the Mark Dayton shutdown, I happened to also be serving as majority leader. And so I know a little something. It was 21 days, the longest shutdown in state history. It is terrible. First of all, I will say on a federal level, the shutdowns are not as painful because there's so much spending that is kind of on autopilot or deemed essential. But there's definitely going to be some things that are noticed. It's not as impactful. I mean, and of course, I think there were efforts made to make the shutdown in 2011 more difficult than it even needed to be. Like they put up barriers. They spent time to put up barriers at like roadside. State roadside, not rests, but just like a plaque along this road.
Don't
they put
stop
up a barrier.
here. This is closed.
You're right. Hey, it's a state shutdown. You can't look at this. But it was a similar thing then, right? So we had a Democrat governor who had just been newly elected, by the way, and who ran on tax increases, and then we had a brand new Senate majority that had run Tea Party 2010, led by me, who had run on not a penny more. We were in a terrible deficit. We had a $6 billion deficit, and they said we're not spending anymore. We're gonna have to curb our spending. This is a little bit. It's not different, right? Well, first of all, I would say for Republicans, it's a tough call to make because over the last few years, spending on both sides has been pretty outrageous. If you look at what Trump spent, if you look at what Biden spent, the federal government spending has been really out of control. So I appreciate people trying to put the line. But also Republicans have only one leg of the stool. They don't have the Senate. They don't have the presidency. And so at some point, you have to come to some kind of an agreement or what? Do you just continue? And as you said, for McCarthy, he just can't win. The moment he became speaker with barely enough votes, how many ballots was it? 13 ballots? 14 ballots?
Yeah.
It was 14 ballots to get to his speaker. He was in trouble from the jump because he was the speaker in name only.
Yes.
He did not control that caucus.
No,
He's never controlled that caucus. It's been controlled by a handful.
Yep.
And they're not interested in governing in any kind of way. And again, I appreciate the House making a stand for fiscal conservative now. It's been a long time coming, and Republicans have really let this run on this, and Democrats certainly have. But at some point, you have to come to a deal. You have to govern. And I think the handful are not interested in governing. They're interested in going on TV, going on TikTok, going on Instagram.
Going to the theater.
And just bashing everyone, right? Bashing the Democrats, bashing the Republicans, which is so easy to do. It's so easy to do, and it's so easy to get likes, and it's a lot harder to get a job done. So I think there's no doubt there's going to be a shutdown. I think the shutdown was written the day that McCarthy was elected speaker because he's not really in charge of that caucus.
And I think to your point that people might not be paying attention to some of the things, but what I noticed are the amendments that were going on in the House is bringing down the Joint Chiefs of Staff salary to $1.
Right.
The ridiculous things that the common sense people are really? And I think the Senate and the House are going to play against each other because McConnell made it crystal clear in his speech that voting against this was for open borders and not dealing with the fentanyl crisis. The other point I'm going to say, I don't know if somebody could refresh my memory what maybe happened in 2012 in the elections after the shutdown.
Yeah. Well, I think it was other things. I think that was the marriage amendment.
But I'm saying that there was consequences.
Politically, it's incredibly difficult as well.
Yeah.
And I would also say, in 12, there was no money. There was a huge deficit, and everybody was hurting.
Right.
I think that people would agree that things have gotten, like spending has gotten out of control given the pandemic and all of that, and people would like to see it controlled. I just don't think they're messaging that in any kind of way. I don't really even see what the message is. The message almost seems to be, we're pretty dysfunctional.
Yeah, we want to sink Kevin McCarthy.
Well, and the numbers are too big. I mean, the numbers are so big now that they're almost meaningless to the average citizen. So I think that once upon a time, you did have people that wanted to elect fiscal hawks in order to influence the rate of growth of the budget and all that. But I think that they have just seen from Democrats and Republicans that they spend like drunken sailors no matter which party is in control, and then they complain about the other side. It's not about, big spending or big spending. It's about big spending or maybe a little bit more spending, and then what type of spending there is. But that's not what the Republicans are messaging right now. They're not saying what number they need to get at.
No,
they're not saying if we do this number, these are the things that we're fighting for in order to make your lives better or improve the fiscal health of the United States of America. Some of them are just saying no, and the other ones aren't saying anything
because they're too scared.
They're too scared.
And McConnell isn't helping McCarthy at all by messaging things appropriately that American people are concerned about, and so he's not helping McCarthy message at all. And I think McCarthy is well aware of the political impact next year during the elections if he's going to get strapped with this, in the elections next year.
Yeah, I mean, even think on the state level this last year, the Republicans in the minority in both, stood up and said, well, we are concerned about the funding for nursing homes. Like they actually had, we think you're spending too much, but also in some of your spending, you're completely neglecting this. Like there was a message there. Now I think they should have gone broader and included students and young families, but at least there was a message. And there's just, I don't know what this is. I don't even know what they're fighting for.
Republicans. What are we in favor of?
Oh, that's an excellent question.
It's an excellent question and an unfortunate one, because we're not going to get majorities back in Minnesota or on the federal level by just saying they're doing too much.
Right. Well, and you're too worried about other people's families and what other people are, I don't even know how to say it. It's just too worried about the social issues that have nothing to do with governing and people's pocketbooks. I mean, when you look at what Democrats are fighting for, they're fighting for schools, they're fighting for working families, they're working for labor and workers' rights, they're working for infrastructure, for clean water. I mean, you look at the Democrats' message, and that's what we're investing in.
And I think that Republicans definitely can criticize how some of those things are being done. However, you also have to have your own agenda.
You do.
We're not going to debate it here, but we can go down that list of things. But give the Democrats some credit. They said these are the crazy things we're going to do, and then they did them, and they're popular with a lot of people. And the things that make that maybe you could look at to say, I know it's got a great title, but how it actually works is not, being a good steward of people's money. That's a way harder argument to make, especially when you don't try very hard to make that argument.
I don't even think they're trying. That's my problem with it. They seem off on, still talking about the 2020 election.
Yes.
Like, what are we doing? Stop it. And you know what happens? Then we lose. Yep. And then we're not in charge of anything. And then we get run over. And then you complain. And you know what? A lot of it is we only have ourselves. We've talked about this before. We have ourselves to look at because we don't run a campaign that the American people feel like, oh yeah, you guys. I mean, I think that a lot of the things that Democrats do, American people go, oh, that's a lot. But then they go to us and say, oh, but still not you guys. That is really what I feel like. And that's very frustrating.
Charisma is the key to opportunity, and we are not exuding that at the moment. And I'm not just sitting here going, wah, Republicans suck. I am so happy to try to be part of the messaging team to kind of bring, some sort of direction to this party. I'm not saying I'm out and you guys suck.
No.
And I'm saying, hey, let's talk. Let's get sane people in a room and come up with a cohesive message.
Right.
Because we can, but we can't if the only goal is to not tick off the right,
not even the right wing, Donald Trump.
The right flank of our. I'm talking on the state level with delegates and whatnot. But and here's the last thing I'm going to say before we kind of move on to Minnesota stuff, is that until Donald Trump is not the only Republican in the news,
Right.
no one is going to take us seriously
Right.
on any of the things we say. There and Gabe comes
That's a good
flying
point,
in
Gabe.
with
That's another
what
one
is
who's been
going
in the
on
news.
there?
that's Bobert juice.
Okay.
That was last week.
Bobert.
That was
That's Lauren Bobert.
Bobert. But anyway, so hey,
Lauren
I want to be
Bobert.
part of the solution. I want to come up with things that we think can help us, regain seats that we've lost in the suburbs and continue
Well, maybe
to dominate.
acknowledge that there's hungry people throughout Minnesota instead of saying you've never met one. I mean, it's stuff like that.
That's a start.
Yeah.
And on
good
the run sheet, there was a local angle with Angie Craig.
Oh yeah, she presented she put forth legislation to not allow legislators to get their pay during a shutdown.
All right.
Much like,
There you
but
go.
she named it. They use acronyms, and she named it the McCarthy Act. It's like, all right, Angie. All right.
Feels less serious.
You know
when she
what?
does
I
that.
need her focusing on why there was all that poop in
I know.
Burnsville.
She's still working on that.
Yeah.
Funny
She
story.
can walk and chew gum.
So funny story about that. We had an event with her because she got us some federal dollars for an infrastructure project in Cottage Grove, and the press was there, and they said,
asked about
why don't you?" She said, "Mayor and Commissioner, why don't you come join me?" And they asked her about the poop rain, and we both just took 2 steps back. She goes, "What's the matter with you two? You don't want?" We're like, "No, we're good, Angie."
Good. We're
And we-
good. Answer the question,
you tell
Angie.
us.
And she's like, "Gee, they just abandoned me." We're like, "Yeah, we're good."
I mean, we all like when our elected officials, and she is my congresswoman, we all like when they agree to take up issues.
Yeah.
But she has not gotten to the bottom of that poop.
I know.
You know, she is a podcast listener.
She's working on it.
She's working really diligently on it. I
Years
tell you
ago.
though, she's such a hard worker. Those series.
Years ago,
It is hard to track
we
down.
were both at an event
Without an
at the
airplane.
University of Minnesota, and she came up and she goes, "Brian, because she's from Texas. Brian, you just say the worst things about me, but I love you." So anyway,
She's
you know
gonna
what would
find
be
out about
huge
that
for an
poop
election
ring.
year is to crack the poop case.
Maybe she's holding on to it.
She's
Maybe
holding on to
she's
it. She
like,
knows she's
she's
gonna
like,
say
hold
that.
on, guys.
Is that the October surprise?
Yeah, she's gonna be like, I know where the poop ring came from.
Okay.
yeah.
And there'll be no more poop rain.
And there,
in
I am
CD2.
presenting legislation.
Should just bring it home. Just bring it home.
She's asking the tough questions about it.
Chocolate rain. That's a deep cut right
That
there.
is a deep cut.
All right, in Minnesota news, we have a cannabis czar, not so fast.
What we did for like
This was
24
really
hours.
bad. It
How many-
wasn't even 20.
How many scaramucci's
It was
is
a
that?
0.5 Scaramucci.
0.5 scaramucci's. So,
This was bad.
and this was a surprise, because we all kind of, those of us who work up at the Capitol, you couldn't avoid having something to do with last year's cannabis legislation.
Yeah.
I worked on it on behalf of the counties, about substance abuse people, bars and liquor stores. So there were lots of ways that I was involved with it, and then also so almost everybody was watching to kind of see what are they going to do with who's going to head up.
Right, so they created an Office of Cannabis Management,
Which will be
because
online in
they'll be part of
2025.
licensing. That's going to do all the. It's going to do all the work. It's going to be a separate office, and they have to choose a person to
run it.
To run it. And I had heard some very well respected names of current existing regulators in the state of Minnesota who I think would be very competently have led that office. But then when the name came out, everyone's like, "Who the hell is that?"
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
started to Google.
So,
So we started.
unfortunately,
Google. You check the Google, David.
oh, David.
The
we
Google
was on the
machine.
Google, and it was bad. It was like the day I Googled Cedric Alexander. It was like, what are you doing? Why is no one looking this up? And so we got someone who, let's try to go in order of the things they found out about
Yeah.
her. She was selling illegal products in her weed business.
Now, before we do
Documented on
that,
TikTok.
we should say that she comes kind of from the retail
Yes.
part
Which was
of the
also
industry.
a very weird pick
Yeah.
for
The
me. Was
Fo-
that weird?
it's the Fox being in charge of the
This
hen
is
house.
what I thought. I was like, first of all, when I saw it, I was like, you hired someone that does retail cannabis business? Like,
So she said she was going to quit
odd-
doing that. She was
Okay.
going to shut that down.
that's
That was
good.
part of it. And normally it's like, like as someone who represents small businesses, normally it's like,
Yeah.
put a small business person in. Not for this.
no.
Not here. Not here.
And so there was that. There
So
was the
she
illegal-
sold very illegal, like 20 times how much
Yeah,
THC or CBD.
Because when we
or-
accidentally legalized, you could only have 5
Shout out
milligrams of
Senben.
THC. Shout out to Senben, friend of the podcast.
friend of edibles.
Came out and admitted, yeah, it was, whoops. My bad. No. But you could have 5 milligrams of THC. Obviously,
Yeah.
she was advertising with 10.
And she was
and
like,
higher,
it was
and-
very confusing. 5.
No,
it's a
it was-
number. It was one number, 5 or less.
And then a package of like up to 50.
Yeah, 10
which
of-
means
10
of the
fives.
fives. 10
10
times
fives.
5, 50. She had 150. Anyway.
She had like a gazillion milligrams. So she was doing that. She was documenting it online in her ads.
Yep.
Then it came to find out she had tax liens. Well, not good. That means you
No.
didn't pay your taxes.
No.
Then she had like many cases against her from a previous cleaning business and from something else. She like didn't pay people
didn't pay her
either
employees.
wages or sick time or something. And then like it just kept going. It was just like boom, 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 boom. Like on a simple Google search.
So my question is like, how? First of all, and I hear this from a lot of people. Like, we kind of pay attention to behind
Yeah.
the scenes. We'd heard some names, as Brian said, and there was some that had to take themselves out. But where did this name come from?
Who knows? I mean, they had like 150 applicants. How did this person like rise to the top? Also, her business experience was thin. I remember reading it and I was like, okay, she's had a retail business since February. Like that's not even a
Right,
year.
that's not even-
And before that, they were touting that she was part of like business networking, BNI, basically is what it's
Yeah.
called. And I was like, well, that's like very close to a Ponzi scheme marketing, like networking group. Like
Right.
they always want like young, like life insurance salespeople. They're always, because you have to say we'll only refer to other BNI people. And they were like, she was a like a consultant or an advisor, and I was like, who cares?
To that group?
Or through that group or something. It was very thin.
Well,
business.
and I had heard that someone said, well, they put this person in place because she would do whatever Governor Walz told her to. Surprise!
No, she wouldn't.
Whoever was in that position is probably going to do what the person who.
But she doesn't do what Governor Walz told her to do, because then she went on her
Yeah.
tour with her lawyer. I'm like, what's your lawyer gonna
Yeah,
do?
she was on CCO.
Yeah.
That she had been sort of
Thrown under the
Smeared and
bus.
thrown
She
under
was
the
told.
bus.
She
I
was
don't
told
doubt,
not to
but
clarify.
also welcome to politics.
Yes,
Like
she was like,
it's not
they
a tickle
told me not to
competition.
talk to the media, as she's saying it in the media.
Yeah,
I was like,
and also I'm sure
Before-
they did tell her to shush.
yes.
Before I kick it over to Commissioner Bigham, so the governor, this was a black eye, and one that he admitted was a black eye, and he has since come out and said that they're going to go back, try to find someone who is a more traditional regulator to be in that job. But Carla, you and I were talking about it before the show.
Yeah, I think, not a good look, and I think he admitted that. I think admitting that this wasn't the right thing and going to correct that is a good step in leadership. So I think, that's a thanks, Governor Walz, for stepping up to that. And these days when you're looking for leadership, to do that, I think is a positive thing. So clearly he acknowledged that, and I think to start over and go for a more traditional regulator, whatever happened there, I'm sure he's equally as upset, even if he's keeping, that controlled. You could just tell by how he's, his body language when he's talking about it, you could tell he's not happy about it, and he's rectifying the situation and acknowledging it and accepting responsibility, and that's all you can say in a leader and want. So I think, it is what it is, and he's going to get the right person in there and do this. This is extremely, extremely important role, and we do have to get it right. And so to pause and to get that right is a good thing in leadership.
Well, and it gave me concern only because the law that was passed, and this is admitted by both
Yep.
proponents and opponents, it's not.
No.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, it needs work.
And we don't know all the things that are going to work well and the things that are going to work poorly.
Correct.
And there are people who have a ton of concern about this. And this initial pick doesn't give them any comfort that this product, which is a controlled substance, is going to actually be controlled. And that's why, as someone who I don't have a strong care whether we passed it recreationally or not, but if we're going to do that, I want to know, as with tobacco and as
Right.
with liquor, that it's going to stay. It's going to be in the hands of those who are old enough and responsible enough to use it
Right.
appropriately. And I don't think that this is going to be the thing that ends the fabric of society.
No.
It's not. But it's also something that I think is serious enough that we can't just focus on the equity portions of the bill. There's also the nuts and bolts blocking, tackling
Right.
of regulating a controlled substance in the state of Minnesota. So I hope the next pick is someone that everybody goes, yep, that person is going
Makes
to
sense.
be the strong hand on the rudder that this needs as we kind of get this more to be a finished product over the next couple of sessions. But,
Yeah, we'll see. Should we go on to
Should we talk
plugs,
about
or should
now?
we touch?
Yeah.
Or do
Oh,
we
yeah.
can go on. I think it's
Okay. Well, who's got plugs?
normally just you two.
Okay,
Busy little lives.
Catch Brian and I every Tuesday on the BS podcast and at various radio stations around the state. We're on every Tuesday talking politics.
You can also find us this Sunday at the Talladega Motor Speedway.
Yeah, we're
in
going to
Talladega,
NASCAR.
Alabama.
We're going to NASCAR.
Roll Tide, baby!
I've never been to
Woo!
NASCAR or Alabama.
Oh,
I've been to both.
Oh, no.
I've been to NASCAR multiple times and Alabama.
I'm not going to be
most
shocked
of the
if
times.
one or both of you next week are like, I can't be there.
I was very surprised. Actually, my wife found this because one of the things that's a constant stress in our marriage is that she is someone who thinks you can bring a suitcase into like a concert, and she's like, well, just make them stop me. Well, they do. They do. Every time. So I'm always sending her bag guidelines and stuff like that. And a lot of times, she knows how to stump the band, so she'll like go on and say, well, in this wild game they said it could be this big. So she's good at that.
What's she bringing?
I just, you know what? She's bringing trouble. Trouble is what she's bringing, because it's not like she needs any of it.
Right.
She's just offended that she's being
limited.
But in any event, so she was being proactive, and she looked, and I wished I had the list in front
It's
of me.
insane what you can do.
You can bring
yeah.
You can bring in like
alcohol.
soft-sided coolers full of alcohol,
Oh, yeah.
nunchucks.
You guys
like,
talk for 5 seconds, and I'll find it.
Welcome to Alabama.
and Talladega. I was like, what? We can bring this. So I am going to bring a soft-sided cooler. So
There you go.
we want to, bring our stuff in. I'm not worried about it at all. Usually I have to like try to figure out, is my little Lululemon pack too big? And by the way, can we stop with that too? But we'll get to that. Could be a whole other space.
With how small it
this
has
how
to be.
small,
Yeah.
and it's ridiculous. But if it's clear, somehow then magically that's
Yeah.
okay. But anyway, but yeah, no, the list is unbelievable. What's
So they
allowed
don't.
into
So they don't
NASCAR.
care if they're like.
They don't. Basically,
they're
they
like,
don't care.
we won't let you bring
It's
a big
America.
enough cooler.
This is
to-
America.
to have all the booze you want. You'll end up buying it
Right, and
from
they don't want
us
you to thunk
eventually.
the guy in front
You
of
can
you.
bring in prepackaged and sealed food and beverages
Yeah.
in a cooler. You can bring in
America.
ice,
Freedom.
strollers, service animals, cigarettes, and lighters. You can bring in your
That's
own
good.
insulated cup, maximum 64 ounces.
Jesus.
That's like that's my Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I can't read. I have the thing in front of me, but I can't read it because it's a picture of a
amazing.
picture. But you know what? You can't bring guns. Wink.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's
Try and
anyway.
stop me.
I know that listeners are going to be super disappointed that we cannot do Patreon this week.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure some of
'Cause
you got
Javier's not
super
Creative.
We hope.
Unfortunately, Javier does not. Why can't we have the Patreon
I know.
That's his
password?
thing. He's a gatekeeper.
He's
a gatekeeper on
to
this.
Patreon. But yeah, so after last week, he's taken a rest. He didn't want to come in.
that was
scared to
good.
be on the podcast at all.
And by the
was
way,
good.
we have had so many people ask us this week, was that real?
It was so real.
It was so real.
It was
folks.
he was so innocent. As he
Brian
said
and
it.
I knew
We love
all
you,
we
Mike.
knew is that a name had been submitted, a fake name. So we didn't even know. At first, when he said it, I was like, is that the yep, that's the
Yep.
fake name.
Nope. And it was so well done. I've had
It
so many
was.
people tell me that their coworkers, just heard them cackle at work as they were listening to it. I've gotten many texts
Yeah.
from
But it was very real.
elected officials and regular people, and it was.
Javier's not that good of an actor.
We've been doing
he's
this
not.
over 9 years, And that probably was the funniest thing that's ever happened on
was
this
pretty
podcast.
good.
I think
took him
Javier's
so
a great actor.
Oh my
Well,
God.
he is, but he was not that good.
Not
It was
that
so
good. I mean,
perfect.
he just was like, just so puzzled.
Mike, we love you, Mike.
Oh, jeez.
Only making Brian and I laugh harder. Anyway.
Oh my God, that was
so
wonderful.
maybe next week.
So
Take
anyway,
care.
so yeah, those are our only plugs. BS show on Tuesdays and the Yellowwood 500 in
Yeah, we'll report back.
That's what it's called, the Yellowwood.
Yellowwood.
Excuse me.
I don't know. I don't know. It must be. I don't even know.
Yellowwood.
Yeah, sorry.
You Yankee.
Yeah. Maybe that's how they say it in Pittsburgh.
Right.
But yins are
Or
weird up
Minneapolis.
there.
They don't talk about NASCAR in Pittsburgh.
They should.
They should. They would love it.
I've been to the Daytona 500. I've been to the Chicagoland. I can't remember what it was called. The race at Chicagoland. I think they're super fun. I'm a little worried that the rest of you are going to get pretty bored, but just bring the right stuff in your
Bring
cooler.
a 64-ounce
Yep.
cup.
Yep.
It's
Yeah, I'll
going
bring
to be
a
fine.
book.
Yep. Oh, you could.
I'll bring a book.
Anyway.
Just go to the Lunacy Cannabis Shop and
Yeah.
get yourself some 92,000 milligrams.
Anyway,
Potent stuff.
let's go to Spanks and Thanks.
I'll
Davis,
be the
you wanna go
last.
first?
I can go first. All right. So my thank this week is Joe Biden, who joined the striking UAW auto workers on the picket line. The first. I felt like some people were saying like this is the first time a president has done. I think it's the first time in over 100 years, but I don't. I saw that somewhere too, so I don't want to misspeak.
Solidarity.
But yeah, way to go, Joe. He talked about unions building the middle class. Good job, Joe.
Yep.
So that's a quick and easy one. Look at him there.
Yeah.
Presidential.
Very.
Yeah, he thought he was at the Yellowwood 500, though.
That's a man not getting a summary judgment against him for fraud.
Yes.
And my spank is for
Because he wasn't held competent to stand trial. Okay, I'll stop.
my spank is in Roseville. There is a man on the running for school board who is an open Holocaust denier who actually, in fact, blames Jewish people for the Holocaust. He says, sure, it took place, but Jewish folks were the ones who were. And amazingly enough, after this news came out, the Minnesota Family Council tweeted, Minnesota voters need to tune out this noise and vote for achievement-focused candidates who believe that our schools need to focus on academics and safety, not distracting personal or political views on race, ethnicity, and gender. Newsflash. Not having a Holocaust denier on the school board is safety. Mm-hmm. It's safety for Jewish teachers. It's safety for Jewish students. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people who get really up in arms when anyone talks about Israel. And I need to see those people being up in arms about the fact that the Minnesota Family Council is doubling down on a Holocaust denier running for school board.
Preaching.
And frankly, anyone who, whether you have a Jewish background or not, and as people know, my grandfather was an Austrian Jew who lost many, many, many family members to the Holocaust and came to this country in 1938, which is just about the time you wanted to do that. But regardless of that, anyone who wants to have accuracy, and as conservatives, we're always like, well, they don't teach the right stuff. They don't teach the right stuff. Well, you know what? If they're teaching about World War II, we want them talking about the Holocaust because it happened, because if we don't want these things to happen again. We got to be honest about it. We got to be proud of the American role in all that. But if someone's going to say, well, the Jews brought this on themselves, that's asinine and offensive to anybody for all the reasons.
So hopefully the people of Roseville will do the right thing.
And call it out when it happens.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right. Those are mine.
All
Thank
right.
that.
Well, we're going to do it a little out of order. Normally the quarterback goes last, but we have special guests for that. So I'm going to go, and I'll go quickly. So my spank is going to be to criminals.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm taking a strong stand here. Target Corp, perhaps you're familiar. Target Corp is closing 9 stores in major cities across 4 states, claiming theft and organized retail crime have made the environment unsafe for staff and customers and unsustainable for business. Now, I want to be clear, none of the closed stores are in Minnesota. They're in New York and San Francisco, which is full of poop,
Portland.
and Portland and Seattle and Oakland and all these places. But this is something that and this kind of came out, after the unrest after the murder of George Floyd, where when the looting happens, there's looting happening in Philadelphia right now, which we don't need to get into, but when the looting happens, not the peaceful protests, not the honest protests, but when the looting happens, so many people think, well, it's a big corporation and, who cares? Well, it's not, Brian, in Lakeville and Apple Valley, where we have multiple targets that gets hurt by this. It's people who don't have access to grocery stores, to clothing stores, to other places that get hurt by this.
Correct.
So if you want to say they're a soulless corporation, you're right. But you know what? They're going to make sane, sound business decisions, and that's not going to work out in your favor. It was an amazing amount of community support that they rebuilt the things that were burned in Minnesota and other places. And to see what's happening here, and it looks like they're going to make sure that all the employees are able to get, there's many targets, so they're going to be able to go to other stores. But this is something, and the numbers are staggering, that they said that retailers were cost $112 billion in losses just in 2022. And that's up from $93.9 billion in 2021. Those are real numbers. They're going to affect your community. And so we have to stop treating these places like it's just a free lunch, because society needs to get a grip on itself and start acting like we care about the places that we live.
Yes.
So, and my thank is going to be to my good friend and friend of the program, Nancy Pelosi.
What?
Long-time listener.
Nancy Pelosi.
She's running again.
She's running again. Refused, when asked, to say whether Kamala Harris is Biden's best running mate. Her quote to CNN's Anderson Cooper: "If Kamala was the right fit for the job," Pelosi, former Speaker Pelosi said, "Well, Biden thinks so, and that's what matters." And then she tried to come to
Ringing endorsement.
She tried to come to Vice President Harris's defense, and this is another quote. She's the Vice President of the United States, and when people say to me, "Well, why isn't she doing this or that?" I say, because she's the Vice President. That's the job description. You don't do much.
Well, you don't do much.
You don't do much.
Well, you should. And if you're the vice president, especially with President Joe Biden, who, corn pop's a bad dude. We don't know how long he's going to be up and around. I want my vice president doing stuff, because when you're doing stuff, you're learning stuff. I don't know. I'm not the vice president. They put Kamala Harris
typical Republican
in charge of. Well, okay, they put her in charge of the border.
Go do something.
Yeah.
She's doing a bang up job. She's doing a hell of a job. Doing a hell of a job. But anyway, so I want to thank Nancy Pelosi for being honest that Joe Biden, and you know what? I don't want Joe Biden to pick someone other than Harris, because nobody likes her. Democrats don't like her. You like her?
I like her.
Okay, well, you got one. You got one. But I want to thank her for being honest and letting everyone know that Kamala ain't up for the job. And if we had somebody other than Donald Trump running, we'd win. But we don't know how that's going.
Ifs and buts were wishes and
nuts. Woman of the President of the United States.
I don't know. Well, anyway.
That would be something. Yeah. She's on track. All right, so my spank this week, and I brought in a couple guests, as you may have seen. So Commissioner Bigham came in and is co-hosting, but I also have Margaret Vessel with me. And so was it last week that I spanked the NFL, or 2 weeks ago that I've spanked the NFL, because the season is kicked off, and they continue to have first of all, the numbers for them and women in particular watching the NFL has increased exponentially. It's something like 43% of women now say they watch the NFL. And yet, all the pre-games and post-games and in the booth, there's an occasional woman reporter on the field, but few and far between, and it's mostly guys. And I said, I get it that many are former players and that's it, but given the audience shift, you need more. NFL, do better. You're spanked. Well, then this week, I'm reminded of again, because a little something happened. There was a guest at the Chiefs game this week. Taylor Swift showed up to support maybe not dating guy, and the NFL lost their mind. They lost their mind. The announcers, first of all, were doing the lame joke. It's done now. Can we stop doing this? The politicians did it, and now the announcers are doing it where they like insert clever, not clever Taylor Swift songs into their announcements. I hate that.
I
The
can't see you guys. There's a lavender haze over there.
Right, exactly. There's sorry.
Sorry.
They had
calm
right. They
down.
did all. See, this is.
We're not doing that.
We're not doing it. The NFL, then they put like Taylor Swift's picture in their profile, in their Twitter banner, and they called it, they said their Twitter, they changed to NFL Taylor's version. So, like, okay, and
Why do you gotta be so mean?
it makes me nuts when they do that. Anyway, it was a huge bump, right? Kelsey jerseys went through the roof, and women really are paying attention. We have multiple women in my firm alone that were like, now they're listening to the Kelsey podcast. They're into it.
Back
Right.
in December.
And what I would just say to the NFL is, pay attention. And so, because they were not getting the message in the last week, I invited a couple amazing women who have been a part. We have had a Gridiron Ladies Fantasy League. Now, there's Commissioner Biggin showing off our trophy. It has been since, what is the first year? Is it 2012?
Yes, 2012.
2012 was the first year that we started the Gridiron Ladies. Margaret, you were an OG member. I think, Biggie, you came in, what, a year or two in?
15.
15, 2 years in. I started the league, and it's an homage to the Margaret Thatcher, because she is the Iron Lady and we are the Gridiron Ladies. And it was originally an all-Republican league, but we allowed a Packer fan, so we're like, all right, we better get a Democrat.
Yeah.
And along came Commissioner Bigham.
That was
But honestly, it was easier to leave the Democrat in than the Packer fan.
It really was.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. So anyway, ladies, I really appreciate that you came in. First of all, go around. Margaret, how's your fantasy team doing this year?
Oh, well, I mean, I had a rough start.
What's your record?
I'm 2-1.
Oh, that's
Not bad.
Maybe have we played 3 games now?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
2-1.
No, Brian.
If I'm honest, I'm here to talk about Taylor and Kelsey. So I mean, that's exactly why I came.
Appreciate it. All right, Biggie, how's your?
I'm undefeated,
You
and
are
I beat
undefeated.
Karn Housley in a butt whooping in the first week. I just want to say that. Last time I said that in public, she punched me in the middle of an interview that was caught on the news, and it was shown in the news. So she's
there
not
you go.
here today, so she can't.
Jen
physically
Niska was
assault
going to
me.
join us. She is a
Oh, I
Dolphins
thought you were
fan.
still
We
going
love
to
her
come
too.
through here.
No. Jen Niska's here. No, Jen Niska was joining us, but she got sick, and Jen Niska has been with us also
Yeah.
from the beginning. We even were on CBS Sunday Morning on Super Bowl Sunday in 2014.
Yep.
They featured the Ladies of Fantasy, and they had us. We were over.
It's so fun, though. Really,
I'd be
it truly
remiss if
is.
I didn't tell
Brian's going to
tell the public that Commissioner Bingham's team was drafted by her nephew.
Thank you. Asterisk on the whole season. An asterisk. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to ask who everybody's favorite female sports reporter is.
Aaron Andrews.
Yeah.
Because no, I wasn't saying it to put you on the spot. I was going to say my favorite sports reporter is my wife, Jenny Bierlein, who for a time was a sports reporter at WDAY outside of Fargo. She was on the Fargo Redhawks beat, and that
What do
was
they play?
that baseball.
Okay.
Nice.
But that and I think she did other things as well. But that was her. You know, she's a teacher now, but she's had several careers. Her first one was that, and I think that's cool.
I think it's. How about Tafoya? How about Michelle Tafoya? Amazing. Come on.
She's
Katie
brilliant.
Emmer.
Yes,
now
that's
Stork
right.
does
Tom
a bang-up
Emmer's
job.
daughter. Yeah. Amazing.
She does a great job.
But let's get to why we really are here, which is to talk. Is it real? Is it not? Was it a show?
Oh, it's real.
No, it's
All
real.
right.
It's
so,
real.
So you're ready for Kelsey Swift?
Baby
offspring?
watch. 2024. Baby
So
watch.
why do you think it's real? You had some good points.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Go ahead. You told us. Now you have to tell us here.
I feel like I'm.
Well, Biggie, do you think it's real?
No, I think it's staged.
No.
See, she's just wrong.
Yeah.
I tell you what. I think it's this. I think he had some confidence, and I'll give him this. I think he had some confidence to say, "Hey, what do I have to lose?" And he went to her concert. I'm sure he really does like her, and he took a chance, and she's like, sure, I'll come to your game. It was, I'm thinking
But
it's
he
very
sat
staged.
she sat with his mom.
Yeah. Nobody has ever done the big overture. And
For T-Swift?
T-Swift, and he did it, and I think she's enamored with that, and I think he's I think there's some lasting power there.
I do like him for her. He's very handsome.
He's taller than her, which is not normally.
He's not from across the pond.
That's right.
I mean,
Which she does a
come on.
lot,
Yes.
right? She does that a lot, and it's just never been a good fit, in my
I
opinion.
agree.
No, I am
USA.
hoping for. Listen. I'm a little bit of a cynical. I'm somewhere in between, right? I'm hoping.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this could.
Do you think
this
she'll
could go
come to
somewhere.
his game here in 2 weeks?
I hope so. I'll be
Well, she's going on tour soon, so.
But not till November.
Right. I
there. And
mean,
we're
come.
October 8th
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the team here,
Yeah.
so
She could buzz in.
I'll be
Yeah.
watching. Oh, Amy, who's your quarterback? Shush up.
For who is it?
Oh, I just can't even remember. It's horrible. it was different. I don't want to talk about my quarterback.
It's not the strongest part of her team, but
No.
her team's
I
fine.
got Hill. It's fine. My problem is I've been plagued by injuries right from the jump because Cup was a second round pick. I mean, which is a really good second round pick, and he's been out. Same thing he did to me last year. So
You shouldn't have picked
But
him
I'm
yet.
2-1. I'm 2-1 despite the injuries. So I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
I would
I'm
say
going to
that-
have a very strong finish.
I would say that
You forget halfway through that we're playing, and you sometimes forget to set your lineup up.
Yeah, I do.
there
do
is.
that.
My favorite game.
I
Well,
would.
listen, like halfway through, I just gave up. The last 3 seasons, I'm like, screw
That's
it.
kind of like the Vikings. But I would say that there is a definite effect that she had, this week, for him too. And on the NFL, and I mean, she single-handedly has improved the economy in some areas because of.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean,
Particularly his pocketbook.
Well,
Right, 'cause,
yeah,
like,
I
his
mean,
jersey
the jerseys
sales
and stuff,
were-
but I'm talking about her
400%.
concert tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has single-handedly helped the economy in some areas, and so they both also, I think, care about society in general. I mean, she's doing voter push, and he's
doing vaccination.
vaccines.
Yeah, he works with
and,
Pfizer.
and doing another thing. He's doing vaccines and something else. So I think they have that common thread too.
Yeah.
But I think it's a little staged. But maybe something will come of it. But she's going to be on tour, and
Like a one boy, one girl, and forever love.
I think they're on break. I think they're both young. Have at it. Have
They're
some
not
fun.
that young. They're mid-30s, early 30s.
Early 30s.
They're not that young.
TikTok.
It's time to lock it down.
She wants.
Time to put a ring on it.
I mean,
Like it, put a ring on it.
So this might not be the commentary that the NFL is looking for. It's the commentary I'm looking for.
Or this show.
I mean,
Poor Brian.
I feel like this is good. This is good.
Right. This is
talk.
what we care about this
Yeah.
week. But the point is, NFL, there's a lot of women out there. There's a lot of women
Yes.
right at this table that are paying attention and maybe have a little better do a little better job about who you got on the TV screen talking about football.
Yeah, you don't need like Terry Bradshaw. God love him. He was a good quarterback in his day, but hang it up,
The
Terry.
Bradshaw show though on that's,
can go do
that is
that.
pretty funny.
That's a Steeler fan.
Yeah, Davis is from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's true. But you could hang him up. Like he doesn't have to keep being an announcer.
Yeah, he's
I don't
Well,
feel
I don't
like he's
disagree with-
really.
yeah.
I don't feel like he's really adding to the
He
conversation.
would have been a Chicago Bear, but because the Bears and Steelers tied that year, there was a coin flip for who got the first pick and who got the second pick. And
The better city won.
All right. Well, go Tyreek Hill. I'm going for it all. I'm going to win the Hill this year. And with
Have you
that,
won the heel yet? No. Oh, I'm
Oh
sorry.
man, that's a lot of. That's a lot of.
Ouch.
I once
like,
went
oh my
I had a season where I went 13-0.
Yeah.
And you
I
lost?
didn't win.
That was almost my season last year, and then there was a little heart attack that
yeah, exactly.
totally screwed
She's like
me
the
over.
Vikings.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
this is
great.
this is
Two
making me
asterisks in a
so
row.
angry.
I know this is why I did it. All right. So anyway, Carla, Margaret, we're spanking the NFL. Agree?
Okay.
Spank?
Yeah.
Yes. Spank.
NFL, you spanked, and you all are thanked. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for
Thanks for
making
having
every
me.
Sunday so much better.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for letting
And
us
with
on.
that, Brian, he wants more female announcers too.
Sure. Well, when the Bears play, I have the sound off, so I don't have to listen to anyone.
That's a good idea.
Anyway, this sucked. There's so little joy in my life. Except for you guys. Anyway, with that, I'm super sad. Brian McDaniel.
I'm a former Republican Senate Majority Leader and future Heel winner, Amy Koch.
I'm small business attorney Davis Sensman.
I am a Margaret Vessel and T-Swift Travis Kelsey hopeful.
Truther.
I'm Carla Bigham. I'm the current heel winner.
Asterisk.
And we are wrong about everything.
Asterisk. Like to keep track of that.
No, but she only won last